A method in Java is a reusable block of code, and it goes inside of a class. So right here for this example, I'm using the main class, and we're going to be writing our method down here. To define a Java method, you write out the method declaration or the method header with 4 required parts. And the first required part is called the access modifier. And that just means, is this method going to be available outside of this class? And then make it public. If it's not, if you only want to make this method available within this class, then make it private. Those are the 2 main ones. I'm going to make ours public. The second part is the return data type. And this is just a normal data type that you're familiar with already in Java. What you choose is totally dependent on what you're doing in your method. For this example, we're going to choose a double. If you wanted to return nothing, which sometimes that happens in a method, then you could choose void. But we're going to return a double. In this example, we're going to be calculating sales tax, so that sales tax return is going to have decimal point values, so a double will work perfect. The third part is going to be the name of your method, and you got to get creative here. Use this to describe what your method does clearly. Use camel case, meaning you don't start with a capital letter, but every following word starts with a capital letter. Like that, calculate sales tax. The fourth and final part of the method header or declaration is parentheses. Every method will have these. If they're empty, there's nothing in between the parentheses, that indicates that this method doesn't need any outside data. It's not going to be having any data from the caller of the method to run this method. In our case, we do need some outside data. We need the context. Whoever wants us to calculate the sales tax, we need from them the sales tax rate and then also the sales price. When I make these variables up here inside the parentheses, these are called parameters, and they're little placeholders. Right now they don't have any data, but when somebody calls it, they're going to pass in data, and then that data will be available within our method. Okay, that's it for the method header or declaration. We can now open curly braces, and we're ready to code within this block of code. You can put any Java code you want inside a method, but remember, one of the main benefits of methods in Java is that they're reusable. We can call this over and over again. And we really want to keep what we're doing in here very specific to this particular task, which in this case is calculating the sales tax. So to do that, I'm going to define a variable called sales tax, and then make it equal to the sales tax rate multiplied by the sales price. The very last line in a method is called the return statement, and that's where we exit the method and return any last data we want to the caller. And in this case, we want that sales tax. So we're going to type return sales tax. Now it's important to note that by itself, writing a method like this code will not execute. If I ran this program, I would see nothing. It would never even get to this code, and that's because you have to call a method in order for it to execute this block of code. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Up here in the main, I'm going to call this method, and you call your method by using your method name. Followed by parentheses. Now, if you've required data, if you put parameters here, you have to pass that data. And in fact, our IntelliJ IDE has given us a prompt here telling us that. So when you pass the sales tax rate and the sales price. So I'll type in at 0.07. We're going to do 7% as our sales tax rate, and we'll say the price is $24.97. Now I'll explain this in another video, so you'll just have to trust me on it. But in order to get this example to work, we have to make our method static. And that's because we're calling it from this main method, which is static. And one of the rules in Java is if you're calling a method or accessing a class variable from a static method, it also has to be static. Just trust me on that. We'll talk about what static means later. So I'll add that static keyword to our method down below, and now we can call our method. And right now our method is being called, so when it hits this line of code, it's going to hop over here, find our method with the same name, pass it this data, and execute this code. The problem is we're not capturing the return. We're not capturing the sales tax anywhere to do anything with it. I like to think of it as if it's shooting out the left side of this method. You call this method, it hops in here, executes this code, gives us this return value, and then it comes shooting out the left side here. And so we have to capture it into something. So I'll create a variable called sales tax up here, and then use the assignment operator or equals. And now we're saving that information. When that gets returned, we're saving it right here. So now we can use it in this part of the program. And to prove that this is working, let's just add a little print statement here. printing out that sales tax value. And now if I run that, we'll see our sales tax amount calculated here. It could be cleaned up a little bit, formatted a little bit, but it is working, which is exciting. Methods has lots of advantages just for self-documenting your code, separating your code so you can follow the logical flow more easily. But remember, one of the big benefits is also that you can reuse methods and call them over and over again in your program. So we can do that here. We could call it again, and instead of giving it 7% and $24.97, let's make another sale and pass it some different values. So I'll make a new variable here. I'll use that same name, calculate sales tax. I'm calling exactly the same method. We're going to hop back into here and do this code again, but this time, instead of giving 0.07 to sales tax rate, we're going to give it 0.1. Let's make it 10%, high sales tax. And then instead of giving it $24.97 as our sales price, we make this a big sale, $150. And to prove that works, we'll print that out again. And if I run it, we have our sales tax amount here, $15, 10% of $150. So that's a very basic of Java methods in 5 minutes. Hope that was helpful. Go out there now and code it for yourself.